Buckle up, because this is going to be a wild ride through the mysteries of creation, the flood, and the story of evolution. And trust me, by the end, you'll be questioning everything you thought you knew about life, the universe, and your place in it. Let's start with creation, the origin of everything. Imagine this: billions of years ago, there was nothing. No time, no space, no light, no matter. Then suddenly, boom, the Big Bang happens. From a tiny, infinitely dense point, the universe begins to expand, filling with energy, particles, and eventually stars, galaxies, and planets. Now stop for a second and think, how did all of this happen? Science gives us the mechanics, the how, but it can't answer the why. Why does the universe exist at all? Why are the laws of physics so perfectly tuned to allow life to flourish? These are questions that keep physicists, philosophers, and theologians awake at night. Here's something wild: scientists have discovered that if the constants of the universe, like the strength of gravity or the charge of an electron, were even slightly different, life couldn't exist. Not just life on Earth, life anywhere. It's like rolling a trillion dice and having them all land on the exact same number. Could that really be random? Or does it point to something or someone setting the rules of the game? Ancient texts, like the Bible, say, "In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth." It's a bold claim, but when you think about the precision of the universe, it starts to sound less like poetry and more like a hypothesis worth considering. Now, let's talk about life. The Earth is teeming with it, from the tiniest bacteria to the largest blue whale. But here's the thing: life is insanely complex. Your body alone is made up of 37 trillion cells, each one functioning like a microscopic city, complete with power plants, mitochondria, waste disposal systems, lysosomes, and even a central library of information, DNA. And DNA, don't even get me started. It's basically a 3 billion letter code that tells your body how to build and maintain itself.
Click subscribe to this channel to get more topics you love.
If you found a detailed instruction manual lying in the forest, you wouldn't think it wrote itself, right? You'd assume someone intelligent created it. So why don't we apply the same logic to DNA? But here's where it gets even deeper. The Bible's account of creation says that God spoke the universe into existence. Think about that for a moment. Speech is information, and information requires intelligence. Could it be that the universe itself is a form of divine communication, a way for the Creator to speak life into being? And if that's true, what does it mean for us? Are we just cosmic accidents, or are we part of a greater plan? Hold on to that question, because it's going to come up again later. Now, let's shift gears and talk about one of the most famous and controversial stories in human history, the Great Flood. You've probably heard the story of Noah's Ark, how a righteous man built a massive boat to save his family and two of every animal from a cataclysmic flood. It's a story that's been told and retold in countless cultures, from the Epic of Gilgamesh in Mesopotamia to flood myths in Native American and Asian traditions. But here's the question: is it just a myth, or is there some truth to it? Geologists and historians have found evidence of massive flooding events throughout Earth's history. For example, the Black Sea Deluge hypothesis suggests that a sudden rise in sea levels around 7,000 years ago flooded vast areas of land, displacing ancient communities and possibly inspiring flood myths. And then there's the geological evidence: layers of sediment, fossilized marine life found on mountaintops, and canyons carved by what appear to be rapid, large-scale water flows. Could these be remnants of a global flood? or at least a series of catastrophic regional floods that were remembered and passed down through generations. But the story of the flood isn't just about water, it's about humanity. The Bible describes the flood as an act of judgment, a reset for a world that had become corrupt and violent. It's a sobering thought. What if the flood wasn't just a historical event, but a warning? A reminder of the consequences of our actions and the fragile balance of life on Earth. And here's a question for you: if you knew a flood was coming not of water, but of environmental collapse, social chaos, or moral decay, what would you do? How would you prepare? And more importantly, how would you change? Now let's talk about the Ark. Whether you believe in its literal existence or see it as a symbol, the Ark represents something powerful: salvation. It's a vessel that carries life through destruction, a second chance when all seems lost. Some researchers have even claimed to find evidence of a large wooden structure on Mount Ararat in Turkey, where the Bible says the Ark came to rest. While these claims are controversial, they raise an important question: what's your Ark? What's the thing that's going to carry you through life's storms and keep you afloat when the waters rise? And that brings us to the final piece of the puzzle: evolution. For some, evolution and creation are like oil and water, they just don't mix. But what if they're not opposites? What if they're part of the same story? Evolution explains how life changes and adapts over time, but it doesn't explain where life came from in the first place. The origin of life, how non-living chemicals suddenly formed a living cell, is still one of the greatest mysteries in science. Could it be that evolution is the process through which the Creator brings life into being, a way for the universe to grow, adapt, and flourish? Here's something to think about. The fossil record shows a pattern of sudden bursts of innovation, like the Cambrian Explosion, where complex life forms appeared seemingly out of nowhere. These evolutionary leaps are hard to explain through random mutation alone. Could they be the fingerprints of a guiding hand? And if evolution is a tool of creation, what does that mean for us? Are we just animals driven by instinct, or are we something more, beings made in the image of God, capable of reason, creativity, and love? The Bible says, "The heavens declare the glory of God, the skies proclaim the work of His hands," but science also tells us that we're made of stardust, that the atoms in your body were forged in the hearts of ancient stars. Isn't it amazing that both science and faith point to the same truth, that we are deeply connected to the universe and to each other? And if that's true, what kind of responsibility does it place on us? To care for the earth, to seek truth, to live lives of purpose and meaning. So here's the big takeaway: creation, the flood, and evolution aren't just stories or scientific theories, they're pieces of a puzzle that reveal the deeper truths about life, the universe, and our place in it. Whether you believe in a creator, in science, or in both, one thing is clear: we are part of something far greater than ourselves. The question is, what are you going to do with that knowledge? How will you live differently? How will you make a difference? If this video made you think, hit that like button and share it with someone who needs to hear it. And let's keep the conversation going in the comments. What do you think about creation, the flood, and evolution? Are they compatible? What do they mean for you? Let's talk. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Stay curious, stay inspired, and remember, the truth is out there, you just have to look for it. Let's keep going deeper into this journey, because the more you think about these ideas, the more questions arise. And that's a good thing. Questions are the beginning of understanding. So where were we? Right, we were talking about how creation, the flood, and evolution might all fit together into a much bigger picture. but there's still so much more to unpack. Let's revisit the idea of evolution for a moment. One of the most controversial aspects of this topic is the relationship between humans and other forms of life. Science tells us that we share about 98% of our DNA with chimpanzees. At first glance, this might make some people uncomfortable after all. Doesn't it challenge the idea that humans are unique? But let's flip that perspective. What if the similarity in our DNA isn't a sign that we're just animals, but rather a clue about how all life is interconnected? Think about it. If we share so much with other species, doesn't that mean we have a responsibility to care for them, to respect the ecosystems that sustain not just us, but every living thing? And then there's the concept of being made in the image of God. What does that really mean? If you think about it, it's not about physical resemblance after all. God isn't described as having DNA or a biological form. Instead, it's about something deeper: our capacity for creativity, morality, love, and self-awareness. Evolution may explain how our bodies developed, but it doesn't fully explain our minds, our souls, or our ability to ask questions like, why are we here? That's where science and spirituality can complement each other. Science shows us the how, but spirituality helps us explore the why now. Let's connect this to the flood story. Remember how we talked about the ark? Whether you see it as a literal event or a powerful metaphor, the ark is a symbol of hope and survival. It's about saving what matters most when everything else is falling apart. And isn't that something we can all relate to? Life is full of storms, literal and metaphorical. Maybe your storm is a personal crisis, a global pandemic, or even the climate crisis. Whatever it is, the question is, what's your ark? What are the things, the people, and the values you'll hold on to no matter what? And how can you build an ark not just for yourself, but for others, for the planet, for future generations? This idea of the ark ties back to evolution in an interesting way. Evolution isn't just about survival of the fittest, it's also about cooperation. Species that work together, that form symbiotic relationships, tend to thrive. Humans are no exception. Our greatest achievements, from building civilizations to exploring space, happened because we worked together. So maybe the ark isn't just a boat, maybe it's a metaphor for humanity's ability to come together, to innovate, to survive and thrive even in the face of overwhelming challenges. But here's where it gets really fascinating. The flood isn't just a story about the past. In a way, it's also a story about the future. Think about the challenges we're facing today: rising sea levels, extreme weather, deforestation, and species extinction. It's almost as if we're living in a time where the flood is happening again, not as a single catastrophic event, but as a series of warning signs. And just like in the story of Noah, we have a choice: will we ignore the warnings, or will we act? Will we build an ark, not a literal one, but a metaphorical one, to preserve life, to protect the planet, to ensure that future generations have a chance to thrive? This brings us to one of the deepest questions of all: what is humanity's purpose? Are we here just to survive, or are we here to create, to love, to leave the world better than we found it? The Bible says that humanity was given dominion over the earth, but that doesn't mean we're supposed to exploit it. Dominion means stewardship, caring for the earth, nurturing it, helping it flourish. And science backs this up. Ecosystems are interconnected, and when we harm one part of the system, we harm ourselves. So whether you approach this from a spiritual perspective or a scientific one, the message is the same: we have a responsibility. Now let's circle back to creation. Here's a thought experiment for you. If the universe really is a form of divine communication, what is it trying to say? Every star, every tree, every drop of water, every person you meet, all of it exists for a reason. But what is that reason? Is it to learn, to grow, to love, to create? Or is it something even greater, something we can't fully comprehend? The fact that we're even asking these questions is extraordinary. It shows that we're not just biological creatures, we're seekers of truth, explorers of meaning. And this brings us to the final piece of the puzzle: faith. Faith isn't just about believing in something you can't see, it's about trust. Trusting that life has meaning, that the universe has a purpose, that there's something greater than ourselves. For some people, that trust is rooted in religion. For others, it's rooted in science, philosophy, or personal experience. But no matter where it comes from, faith is what drives us to keep asking questions, to keep seeking, to keep building a better world. So, where does that leave us? Creation, the flood, and evolution aren't separate stories, they're chapters in the same book. They're different ways of understanding the same truth: that life is precious, interconnected, and full of meaning. The universe isn't just a random collection of atoms, it's a masterpiece. And you, as part of that universe, are a masterpiece too. But here's the challenge: what are you going to do with this knowledge? Will you use it to live more intentionally, to care for the planet, to help others, to seek truth and meaning? Or will you let it pass you by? The choice is yours, and that's the beauty of being human. We have the power to choose, to create, to shape the future. So as we wrap up this journey, I want to leave you with one final question: what kind of legacy do you want to leave? Not just for yourself, but for humanity, for the earth, for the universe. Think about it, and let me know your thoughts in the comments. Let's start a conversation not just about the past, but about the future we want to build together. Thank you for watching, and if this video made you think, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Let's keep exploring the mysteries of the universe, one question at a time. See you in the next video. Stay curious, stay inspired, and remember, you're part of something incredible. Let's make it count.